I like Cardiff. Brilliant.
Cardiff, dude. I
great,
think Cardiff's a shit pick.
but it's a great party town, though.
Is it?
Yeah, for a while I used to edit the Welsh edition of the Daily Mirror, and we used to watch the women fighting on a Friday night. We talk a lot now, don't we, about whether or not people would go and fight for their country, and it seems to me people on the left who don't want to fight for anything because they don't really like Britain and don't like its heritage, and then some people on the right who think that because the country's ruined, they don't want to fight for it either.
I think that we should get all the progressives on the left, and we don't need to fight. We don't get them to fight. I think they should just talk at the enemy.
Yeah.
And by the time that they're finished, the enemy will be like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm kind of...
FIFA.
Yeah.
When they decided to unveil this extravaganza of the World Cup, and they designated one particular game, so it's going to be the Pride match, right? And they hadn't actually checked on who was in the draw, and when they did the draw for it, it's going to be Egypt against Iran, both of which are countries where gay people would be imprisoned, if not murdered, by the state. So it hasn't really worked out too well for them.
Hello and welcome to Francis Foster Sort Your Life Out, the show where I indeed sort your life out. Bear in mind, not an expert, any type of physiotherapist, any of that stuff, so you know it's going to be golden. We've got one of my favourite people in the world on the show this week. It's Lord Mike Graham. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well indeed. Thank you for having me. It's a lovely little place you got here.
Oh, thank you for coming all the way, Mike. You've been in the news a bit.
I have. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting year. It's sort of ended in a slightly surprising way, you might say. I wasn't expecting it, but here we are. So we now enter a new chapter just before Christmas, and we'll see how it all goes. But I'm looking forward to it. You're
looking forward to it? Very briefly, so what kind of happened with the talk?
Well, what happened was they basically questioned me over a post that appeared on my Facebook page, which I didn't write. And they said, well, we'd like to prove that you didn't write it. And I said, well, you have a look at my phone. I showed it to them. They had a look at my phone, and it wasn't there. And they had a look for the picture. That wasn't there. And they did that twice. And they said, well, that's all very well, but we'd like to have your phone forensically examined. And I went, right, okay. What would you want to do that for? And they said, well, because we'll be able to see if you've deleted anything. And I went, okay. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, do I really want to give my phone, which has my entire life since about 2004, on it, including all the pictures I've ever taken, all the messages I've ever written, 302,000 WhatsApp messages and all of that, emails. Do I really want to give that to a company that is not actually employing me, but only employs me as a person who works part-time, not on staff? And I thought, I'll go and talk to a lawyer. And I talked to a lawyer, and the lawyers were like, do not give them your phone under any circumstances. That is absolutely overreach. It's not right, blah, blah, blah. So we ended up in a sort of battle of wills about whether or not I was going to give my phone. Cut a long story short, I did my own forensic investigation. I gave them that report, showed that I hadn't deleted anything. They didn't like that either. And in the end, they just fired me, basically, for non-compliance with their request to give them my phone and my iPad. And it took them about 4 weeks to do that, and that happened between sort of October the 20th and November the 20th or something like that. And then ever since then, I've just been plotting my comeback on a new show. We're already broadcasting at the moment every morning between 7 and 8 o'clock. But pretty soon we're going to be launching a live breakfast show, which is going to be called The Mike Graham Show. And we're already doing really well. We've got 112,000 subscribers on YouTube now. About 1.6 million views already. We've only been going for about a week and a half. So, the world is our oyster.
The world is your lobster, Mike. Because I used to remember you, Mike, from when I was doing overnights at TalkSport Radio with Tom Latch, and big shout out to Latch.
Yes.
And used to watch you and Mike Parry go in. Used to do a show called The Two Mikes.
Yes. That was also a great show, very successful show. We did a lot of live stuff on that one. We were together for probably 5 or 6 years. And I did the overnight shows at TalkSport for many years, as well as the mid-morning shows and the afternoon shows. I sort of covered for everybody. I had a great career working for a combination of what was wireless and News UK. It was great fun. And now we're just going to do something else.
And look, but that's a great thing about the internet. Whereas before, if something like this happened, it would be disastrous.
Yeah.
Let us be honest about this. It would be disastrous.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's not that many places where you can go and actually work, because the mainstream media is kind of contracting more than it is expanding, whereas the internet and YouTube, as you know better than anyone, is actually expanding, there's kind of literally no limits of what you can do.
So yeah, that is it. And there's loads of fascists for you to talk to on YouTube.
Absolutely right. Well, we talk to anyone.
Yeah.
We don't mind who they are.
And that's how you know you're a fascist, Mike.
That's right.
Because you believe in free speech.
Yes.
And free speech is fascism.
That's absolutely right. Well, you're a fascist when people come after you for every single thing that you say that they don't agree with. You know you're a fascist when you don't agree with somebody from the left, basically, right?
Yeah, that's how it works. But what we have done is our audience are delighted that you're coming on, and they've come with their problems to Uncle Mike, and you're going to sort them out.
Excellent. I thought you were going to sort my life out. See,
No.
That's what I thought I would say, because that's quite a big ask, that, because I've been around a long time and I've got all sorts of issues in my life, many of which I've solved myself, but, I thought I was going to be on the couch. But if I'm solving other people's problems, then that's fine. I'm good at that.
Thanks for doing the research, Mike. Anyway, let's see the first one. Dear Francis, my uncle wants to leave his entire estate to his much younger gay lover that he's known for 9 months. I can't sit by and watch this. What do I do?
Well, whatever you do, don't go and consult a lawyer, because I did that and it's cost me an absolute fortune. But no, seriously, I don't think it's any of your business. If your uncle wants to leave his entire estate to somebody that he's in love with, albeit for a very short period of time, relatively speaking, I think he's perfectly entitled to do so. What I would do is make friends with the young lover, perhaps, so that the young lover will perhaps involve you in the largesse, and maybe you can get something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, because we all know that gay men, by and large, sweeping generalisation, but they do love a party.
Yes.
They do like to have fun.
Yep.
He's going to have a few quid, a bit of dough. You're going to go to some great parties.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's no point in sort of, making an enemy of him before you've even started.
You're going to be able to go to, to watch some musical theatre. We're doing all the stereotypes.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit of opera.
Yes. A little bit of knitting, maybe.
Yeah.
It's all the rage.
Is it? Knitting is all the rage.
Knitting is all the rage, yeah. People knit now.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because young people now don't drink. They don't really have much sex. And they're doing a lot of knitting.
They've basically become pensioners. They've
have.
become old women.
They have, and they don't go out. I've got a son at university in Manchester, and he says, all my friends in London don't go out because they can't afford it. He's out all the time in Manchester because it's cheap.
Yeah, well, that's the North, that's the North, and that's a beautiful thing about the North.
I mean, the weather's awful, but,
And the people are worse, but, you actually get to go out and enjoy life.
Yeah, and the pint was about £3. Amazing.
Beautiful,
It's
beautiful.
amazing.
Maybe we should all go to Manchester.
Well, I've been to Manchester a few times, and, you don't want to stay there too long, to be fair.
No, unless you like stab wounds.
I live in London, so, I mean, I've got a pretty good chance of getting stabbed there, actually.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we take the piss out of Manchester. Look, the weather is dreadful. I do love Manchester.
It's a good town, actually. I mean, I don't like very many other towns in Britain. I like Cardiff, which I think is brilliant.
Cardiff, I think Cardiff's a shit pit.
But it's a great party town, though.
Is it?
Yeah, for a while I used to edit the Welsh edition of the Daily Mirror, and we used to have an office space inside the Marriott Hotel, which was down the bottom of the main sort of St David Street. And we used to watch the women fighting on a Friday night out the window from the bar. It was absolutely brilliant. But no, and the rugby and all of the rest of it, and it's just a really, really good party town. So that's definitely a good place. I also quite like Glasgow, because I spent a lot of time up there, and that's a great party town. Edinburgh is the same. There's not many places in England really that like people rave about Newcastle. I've only really been there once, and I wasn't really that impressed, I'm afraid.
Well, Laura, our lovely CEO, who is a proud Geordie,
yes,
will be thumping you.
Yes, she might. Well, because that's what they do, isn't it? Up there. I'm always worried about because if you get it wrong, you think somebody's from Newcastle, and it turns out they're from Sunderland.
Yeah,
and then you've insulted them, and you never get that back. So I'm glad you told me she's Newcastle, because I might have said, "Are you from Sunderland?" Or Stockton on Tees or something like that. A Mackham.
That is true. I do like Manchester. I like Liverpool. I know it's controversial.
Yeah. I've never really taken to Liverpool somehow.
Maybe it's because the fact you work for the Sun, Mike.
I've never actually worked for the Sun. I have written pieces for the Sun.
Yeah,
I did actually get into trouble once with Liverpool fans because I put out a tweet once arguing with somebody about Heysel, and I was all
that will do it.
I was all over the Liverpool Echo calling for me to be fired. The Anfield Rat were after me for a while. Went on for about a week, but then it all went away.
Yeah,
I mean.
I love Liverpool. I mean, it's great crack. It's a great place to do comedy.
Yeah,
and the people are lovely. But there is, dare I say, a snowflakey aspect to Liverpool.
Yes. Well, I was once told there are only two groups of people that if they apply for funding from any organisation, particularly the National Lottery, there's only two groups of people that you have to absolutely give them the money, otherwise it's a problem. And it's Muslim groups and Liverpudlians.
What about Scouse Muslims?
Yeah, well, the double bubble, presumably.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, aye. Let's not carry on with that piece.
No, you'll just get yourself banned.
Yeah, or maybe even worse, Mike.
What, cancelled?
No, the cancellation, but of the more permanent variety.
Oh, I see what you mean, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the old concrete shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, mate.
Yes.
So no, Liverpool's great. I went to Bath. We're just listing places now, but Bath's lovely.
Bath, I went to university in Bath.
Did
Spent
you?
a lot of time and met my first wife there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not all good.
No. In fact, I call her my first wife. She's actually the only wife I've ever had. I never actually got remarried.
Oh, didn't you?
But I did have two other kids with somebody else.
Oh, you're a top shagger, aren't you, Mike?
I am. I used to be. I mean, I'm getting a bit old for it now, but I've got 4 kids.
You've got 4 kids?
Aged 18 to 35.
Yeah.
You know, they're still costing me quite a lot of money, I'm afraid, which is obviously why I'm still working.
Yeah. But children do.
Yeah, they do. They do cost a lot of money, but they are great. They're good fun. And they've all been wonderful, actually. During this period of turmoil, they've all been terrific. You know, not one of them said, you know, how did you manage to get yourself fired, you f***ing idiot? But anyway, there we are.
There we go. Next question, please, Jackie. Dear Francis, my daughter refuses to stand for the minute silence at school because she says remembrance glorifies war. I'm mortified, but she's adamant. Do I correct her or defend her?
Yeah, you definitely don't defend her. You must correct her, I'm afraid, because this is a very, very serious issue. And children these days need to know about what happened in times gone by. War is awful. I mean, according to Keir Starmer, we're on a war footing, right? I don't think we are, because apparently we haven't got anybody to actually fight in the army or in the navy or in the air force, and we haven't really got any ships.
Jackie will volunteer, won't you, Jack?
Yeah, excellent. Good man. Will you pass the medical, though, is the question.
Not with his sexual history, mate.
And I think the problem is that the teachers are to blame here, because the teachers are the ones who kind of encourage free thinking, except they only encourage some types of free thinking. They don't encourage left-wing free thinking. They don't encourage anything right-wing. When my son decided that he didn't quite fancy the whole COVID restrictions, he didn't want to wear a COVID mask, and he didn't want to take a COVID test every time he went to school, you know, he was castigated as some kind of criminal, practically. But if you want to demonstrate against the glory of our former fathers and grandfathers who fought for the freedom of this country, for actual fascists, that's okay. And so I think you have to basically educate your daughter and tell her that, you know, if it wasn't for remembrance, if it wasn't for the people who fought and died and who jumped off, and I'll tell you what you should do, actually, is take her over to the beaches in Normandy and show her Saving Private Ryan. And if she still feels the same way, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, magnificently put, Mike, because the tragedy is that as that generation are now, shall we just say diplomatically, receding into the distance, there's still a few of them left, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, not many.
Not many, sadly. We're losing our connection with that conflict.
Yeah.
And the tragedy is then people were now taking what we have for granted.
Exactly. And I took my 2 youngest kids over there, and they were both practically old enough when I took them. I said, you'd have been jumping off these boats, you'd have been jumping off the ships, you know, onto the beach where you were basically going to be gunned down.
Because I thought you would accusing them of cowardice.
No, not at all. But I think they were actually quite genuinely touched by it, because until you see it, because it hasn't changed. The thing that's amazing about Normandy and the beaches and Omaha and all of that, Sword, you know, they're very well preserved because they haven't been allowed to build, you know, like holiday flats, and the terrain is exactly the same as it was. You know, all the turrets where the Germans were are all still there. The little towns are all the same, and there's, you know, there's war memorials everywhere, and it's a really amazing experience. And so I would definitely say, take your daughter there.
Yeah, because this is also an education thing, and I think that's a point that you're making. A lot of people, they believe these things because they've been told, and then they've just ingested this stuff, and then they're repeating it, and it's a narrative. That's all it is. It's a glorified narrative. However, if you actually talk about the history, I'm very lucky. I learned about history from good teachers, good schools on the whole, but also my grandfather who he was a desert rat. He fought in the Battle of El Alamein, and he fought in Italy.
Yeah.
And he was a master joiner, so he volunteered for the war effort even though he was exempt because he was building the Mosquito.
Yeah. Wow.
Which was for those of you who don't know, it was a fighter plane made entirely out of wood. My granddad was one of the people who built them, who helped to build them in the factory in Manchester.
And some of these kids were literally kids. They were 18, 19 years old, and they were sort of taken up in a Spitfire and told how to fly it. In a week, next week, they're in a sort of a dogfight with a German plane, and I mean incredible, just incredible valor and incredible. Testimony to what people were willing to do. And we talk a lot now, don't we, about whether or not people would go and fight for their country. And it's a sort of combination of, it seems to me, people on the left who don't want to fight for anything because they don't really like Britain and don't like its heritage. And then some people on the right who think that because the country's ruined, they don't want to fight for it either. So we're not in a very good place if we are supposed to be on a war footing.
No, absolutely. And just I think that we should get all the progressives on the left. And we don't need to fight. We don't get them to fight. I think they should just talk at the enemy.
Yeah.
And by the time that they're finished, the enemy will be like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm going home. I'm going home. I don't know what my pronouns are. We don't have them in Russian.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing about the Russians. And people say this all the time. I'm sorry to just get a bit heavy on the old war front, but the reason the Russians are doing so well against Ukraine is because the Russians die. Basically, they don't really have any choice.
Yeah.
Putin says you're going to go and fight until you die, and don't come home until you're dead, and that's kind of how they win things.
And no trans, Mike.
Yeah, no trans, and probably no rainbow flags either.
You shouldn't say that around Jack. Do you know when Jack went to? Jack is our producer, Jackie. When he loved San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because he told me at the end of the trip when we were in America, he went, "I love it here, Francis." He goes, in his words, "I feel seen."
Seen.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, what I can tell you about San Francisco's been ruined, hasn't it, though, by the politicians running it. I was in San Francisco in 1989, probably before he was born, when there was an earthquake. And I got a phone call in the middle of the night, and I was in New York, and they said, "You've got to get yourself to San Francisco. There's been an earthquake." And I was like, right. And I stayed in a hotel, and I checked into the Sheraton at Fisherman's Wharf, and they gave me a torch. And I went, "What's that for?" And they went, "We haven't got any electricity." And I went, "You've got some in the lobby." They went, "Yeah, but you haven't got any there." Up in your room. So it was a very bizarre trip. It was the only time I've ever been there. But it was a great city. But I'm told it's ruined now. There's crime all over the place. There's shoplifting. They don't prosecute anyone for vagrancy. They've got loads of people staggering. I don't know if you saw this. Loads of people staggering around on that drug.
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl. Like zombies walking around. And I'm told it's awful now. Just awful, which is a shame. Because it is a beautiful place.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. It is. And... despite what people think, I think I'm genuinely liberal in this sense. I think you should go, as long as you're not hurting another person, go and live your life. You want to be gay, you want to be trans, do whatever you want. I don't care. Right? Not in my face. No. And then you go into every shop and there's a big pride flag and you're like, boys, you won. You don't need to keep doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Well, did you hear the great story this week? And this was actually on the show today, I think. FIFA.
Yeah.
When they decided to unveil this extravaganza of the World Cup in Canada and Mexico and the US. And they designated one particular game for the LGBTQ plus Pride Day. So it's going to be the Pride match, right? And it's going to be sort of, presumably, sort of designed to be like that. There'll be rainbow flags everywhere. And they hadn't actually checked on who was in the draw. And when they did the draw for it, it's going to be Egypt against Iran, both of which are countries where gay people would be imprisoned, if not murdered, by the state. So it hasn't really worked out too well for them.
Well, but the good thing is, though, Mike, is Iran, because it doesn't accept or really acknowledge gay men, and if you are gay, there's a lot of trans people.
Yes.
And so that is actually very progressive.
It is quite progressive, yeah. But it's, I don't really care what people are. I'm like you, just don't tell me what you are, and don't make sure that you have to have some kind of great big badge that says it,
Yeah, Jack started crying. Anyway.
Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, apologies, Jackie. We accept you, and you will always be seen at TRIGGERnometry.
It's a bit like kind of having a badge on you that designates you as somebody who likes having sex in a particular position or something. Yeah. It's like, I don't really want to know. I'm not interested in that,
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Next one, please. Dear Francis, my landlord wants to increase the rent by 300 nicker, even though nothing's been fixed in months. Do I negotiate, fight, or cut my losses and move?
Well, I keep hearing that it's really tough these days to be a landlord because the law has been changed so much that the tenants have got the power back. But I mean, anywhere in a city, certainly, and if you're a student, I know this because of how much money my kids are paying for it, it's absolutely extortionate. Some of the stuff they're renting is pretty much, I would say, uninhabitable material. I mean, my son in Manchester, in one place where he lived, there was mould everywhere. The washing machine didn't work for about 6 months. The landlord didn't bother answering the calls. I mean, the problem with landlords is you've either got decent ones or you seem to have crap ones. There doesn't seem to be anybody in between. I think negotiation is always good. I would suggest you say, look, if you need to fix some things, say, I don't mind paying the extra 300 quid, but can you please fix this and that and the other? I've got a landlord in London, and I lived there for about 10 years. And 1 year I said to him, I'm going away on holiday for a couple of weeks. Is there any chance you could paint it? Because I used to smoke. So it was all kind of, the ceilings were all stained. Anyway, so not only did he repaint it, he completely redesigned the whole place and ripped out the walls and ripped out the kitchen and the bathroom. He made it a completely new flat for me. And when I came back from holiday, he hadn't finished. So he put me up in a hotel for about 2 months while they were doing it. So I was lucky. So he was good. So it's always good to negotiate. And if he says he'll fix things and he doesn't, then I would start looking around for somewhere else.
I do. You know what I do as well? Because we've had great landlords. We had one landlord with TRIGGERnometry who was a flaming. Anyway, let's not finish that. It's just
a theme developing here.
We hated him. But to be fair, he hated us.
Yeah.
But we really hated him. I'm of the opinion that if you've asked something to be fixed and it's not fixed, you just go, well, I'm not going to give you a rent, mate.
Yeah.
If there's no hot water in the flat, I ain't paying rent.
No. And you should actually have the right to do that. I mean, when I was a student living in Bath, funnily enough, we lived in this rambling sort of place on one of the old Crescents, and we had sort of 3 floors, a young ones type house with about 6 of us living there. And we took the guy to the rent office. And actually now when I think back, I feel really sorry for him because we managed to get the rent reduced to something ridiculous, like sort of £10 a month each or something. And so the poor guy was basically bankrupted by the rent control office because that's what they used to do. They used to be able to say to the landlord, well, you can't charge what you're charging. You'll have to, knock off all of this money. So I don't know if we're going to go back to that now with the Labour government. But if you're a landlord, you're going to be in a bad place. I tell you that.
Well, that's the problem as well because fortunately or unfortunately, we need landlords.
You do.
And we need good landlords.
Well, because people can't afford to buy houses or flats, particularly in the southeast. I mean, you don't get much in London now for under sort of £600,000. And people just can't have no way of having that kind of money. If you're making 50,000 quid a year in London now, you're actually a pauper. Yeah. Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, because 50 grand, when I was 20 odd years ago, if I met someone who was earning 50 grand, I'd be like, they're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even 10 years or so ago, you'd be like, he's on 50G.
Yeah.
He's doing all right.
Definitely. But, it's just gone completely mad. I mean, I live in sort of southeast London, not far from Surrey Quays, and there's a new development that's gone up there. And they've got studio flats in Surrey Quays, which used to be a bit of a shithole.
Yeah.
And still kind of is. 800,000 is what they start. 800,000.
They're not even nice flats.
No, I mean, it's a brand new building and it's got a gym in the bottom of it and all of that. So they're kind of obviously trying to attract the yuppies, whoever they are now. But, I mean, it's just insane. So you've got to, I mean, even if you only have to get 10% of that together for a deposit, 80,000 quid you've got to put down. And a mortgage probably, what, 2,000-3,000 a month? It's mad.
It's insane. What are you getting for your 800 grand? So what, a one bed? If a studio's 800, and one bed's probably what, £1 million?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they've actually advertised it on the tube as if it's a bargain, 800, flats start from, studio flats start from 800,000. Like, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You kind of go, sorry? It's insane.
All a studio flat really is, it's basically a room with a bog next door.
Yeah, it is. And somewhere to cook your beans, because that's all you can afford to eat by that stage,
Yeah.
Shocking.
No, it is. It's, So, what we're saying is that we're on the left and get rid of landlords. We don't need them, do we, Mike?
Yeah, let the government run it.
Yeah.
Because they're so good at that. Angela Rayner was the housing secretary. I mean, just put her in charge. I mean, presumably, she would make it very, very easy for people to rent, make it very, very cheap for people to rent. So what you'd need is somebody like Zach Polanski, who would basically just nationalise houses.
Do you know what?
Take them all back.
I love your party.
Your party, yeah.
Oh, I just love them. Look, people think I'm thinking of joining your party. I am because
you've got a pretty good chance of running it at this point.
Yeah, because I think they're a thing that should exist in the world.
They are endlessly amusing, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's literally like, Dave Spart. I don't know if you probably don't remember, but Dave Spart was his character in Private Eye, who was this sort of typical, like Citizen Smith figure, who was from, the People's Party of Peckham or something like that, and just every sort of stupid left-wing trope that you could think of, that would be what he would do, up the workers, free copies of Socialist Voice for everybody, go and join any picket line you can find, don't do any work at all, and just keep calling the state, an overbearing fascist group of thugs, even if they're the Labour Party.
I love Zara Sultana as well.
She's brilliant, yeah.
Oh, she's going to nationalise the economy.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful, Mike.
Yeah, I think it's superb because I love the fact as well that people like her, who are on a very nice salary of about, 95,000, I think it is now for an MP, plus I'd like to have a look at her expenses. I wonder what she claims for.
Well, you heard about the hundreds of thousands she got in the bank account, didn't you? Yeah.
I mean, but this is the thing. I mean, all these so-called communists, they're all rolling around with loads of money, and you kind of go, well, how does that work exactly? And how many people have you got working for you? And in fact, I think I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go and look up what she's been putting her expenses on, because I bet you any money there'll be something in there that we can have fun with.
Absolutely. Zara, we love you. You're always welcome on the show.
Yes.
Next.
Not welcome on my show, though.
Why not?
Because she's got no sense of humour. I don't like people with no sense of humour.
Of course she doesn't have a sense of humour. She's on the far left, mate. None of them do.
No.
It's not the far right. They don't have a sense of humour either.
I've never seen her laughing.
No.
Because
there's a genocide in Palestine. How can you laugh?
Ah, true. I know, it's very true. It's hard to be happy during the day when you're thinking about that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, she's probably thinking about it quite a lot.
Probably, yeah. Do you think she donates any of her salary to them?
No.
No, of course
But I think she thinks about it. Even when she's in the act of making love, she still thinks about Palestine.
Now you've put an image in my head that I didn't want.
Yeah, Joe thinks about Palestine as well, but he does that in order to prevent him, fulfilling his duties. Next
Whatever
one,
works.
Please. Yeah, exactly. Next, please, Jackie. I can't believe I've said that. Dear Francis, I walked into my office to find they've installed standing desks for everybody and removed chairs. It's supposed to improve health. How do I find a battle I literally can't sit down for?
Yeah, this is a really bad development in modern sort of industrial landscaping, I would say. They started doing this at Talk TV when it was still an ongoing concern, and they had loads of really, really woke people who worked there, and a couple of them liked working standing up. And you thought, I mean, I sort of get the fact that you can have workspaces if you want to go and, you see this all the time now in London. You walk around and you sort of look in a window. I was around the back of Wigmore Street the other day, and there's just this sort of room with a huge, long table with individuals just working on their own, not talking to each other, with their little laptops. And it didn't look like a work environment at all. It looked like this is where people go who are essentially antisocial. They haven't got an office really to go to, so they go and sit here for the day. But they're just busy, tapping away. And if you see them standing up, you think that's even bloody worse, actually, because, all you're doing is it's a selfish thing, I think, isn't it? It's this younger generation of people, and I'm going to be accused of being an old git here, who just think that they deserve everything. And, I don't want to sit down to work, so I'm going to stand because that's my choice. And you go, well, sit down over there or you're fired,
Yeah.
That's how it used to be. I mean, I used to work in newspapers in Fleet Street where somebody once got fired by the editor because he didn't like the shape of his head, and, there was no comeback. They just go, just bugger off.
Really?
Go and collect your earnings for the day from the cash machine, because there was a cashier downstairs, and you'd take a little chip down, and you'd either get your expenses or you'd get your day's pay in cash, with the tax deducted or not. And it was a fantastic system, and everybody knew that it was, brutish and ghastly, but it was good fun, and everybody had a laugh. And, now you go into these offices, a newspaper office now, you don't hear any noise. Nobody's talking to anyone. Yeah. They're all kind of, messaging, and a lot of younger people as well in our media business. They don't make any phone calls.
Yeah.
The whole point of being a journalist, in my view, was to ring people up and noise them up and get something out of them, get a story, whatever. But they send them a text. So you go, we've got this guy, and I've sent him a text. Would you mind ringing him? I don't really like ringing people. Well, you don't want to sit at a desk. You don't want to ring anyone. What the hell are you doing here? You just go, just sod off.
Yeah.
Or work from home. And great. Somebody, this was actually at the Sun during COVID times. They hired this guy to work in the showbiz department. and he was working from home for quite a long time. And eventually they said, look, we've never really seen you in the office. Do you mind coming in, tomorrow? And the guy who was his boss told me the story that he came in and the boss went out to get some lunch. And when he came back, he'd gone. And he rang him. He said, where have you gone? He said, I've gone home. And he went, why? He said, well, I was feeling a bit unsafe. I didn't really feel like, I could do the job because I was too frightened of getting COVID. And he never came back. And he literally worked one day in the office, and about 3 months later, they fired him. And you just kind of go, do you actually want to work? Do you actually really know what doing a job is?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do things you might not particularly like. You don't just get to do the things that you want to do unless you run it. And they don't seem to get that.
No.
So if I were you, you say, I don't want to stand to work. The good thing, I suppose, about the way that these kind of selfish people operate is that you can say that you're worried that if you stand up all day, that you might get an injury, in which case they'll probably find you a way of sitting down because they'll be dead scared of getting a lawsuit, no doubt.
Yeah, or you could say something like, well, I'm autistic and I find that my autism/ADHD gets activated every time I stand up.
Exacerbated, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember as well, now that we've got the super flu going on, and all I hear now whenever I switch on the radio is people talking about wearing masks and, not going out and staying at home and social distancing, all the same cobblers that we did during COVID. So you can probably say as well, I'm worried if I stand up I might get the flu.
Yeah.
Because if you were in a restaurant, you could sit down at the table and take a mask off, but then if you stood up to go to the toilet, you had to put it back on again because you know that the air is separate.
Yeah.
Because anything above your head when you're sitting down is clearly more dangerous than when you're sitting down.
My favourite of COVID was the one-way system in Tesco's.
Oh.
There was a one-way system because, as we all know, viruses are autistic. They love a little one-way system.
That really helps you if you've got the one-way system. The pub was the great one for me because we had so many different variations of how you could get a drink. We had the one where they were allowed to open the pub, but you weren't allowed to stay in the pub. You had to go in one door, order a drink, pay for it, and then go out another door. And then you had to drink it outside. And I remember once being around the back of the office in London Bridge in this pub, and a COVID warden turned up from Southwark Council and accused us of all standing too near the pub. And it was like, well, the pub's there. There's a road between us and the pub. Where do you want us to go? Well, you're too near. And it's like, what difference does it make? It's ridiculous, Anyway.
You just know that if somebody who was a COVID warden, they were a grade A wanker.
Totally. Even worse than parking wardens.
You just know, there is nobody that you've ever met you think is a good person. That the moment you meet, they go, oh, what did you do during the pandemic? I was a COVID warden. You're like, all right, I know who you are.
I know, shocking. Absolutely
I know
awful.
you are, mate. I know you
awful.
are.
And the same as the police, who really, really enjoyed bossing people around.
Zara Sultana would be a COVID warden.
She would, no question. But she wouldn't arrest anybody who she perceived to be on the right side of the political divide. She wouldn't find anyone unless they were right wing.
I don't know. I think she's so officious that she would go after anyone.
Maybe, yeah.
You know those?
Do you think she'd give Jeremy Corbyn
a
fine?
Yeah, she would. I think she would give Corbyn a fine and then accuse him of transphobia in the same
It's
instance.
a sort of year zero type thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Everybody's wrong. I love her. I think she's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be more of her.
You're really pumping for her to get on here, aren't you?
Yeah. I would. Zara, I know you watch the show. I know you love it. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, she goes on Laura Kunsberg. Why wouldn't she come on here?
Exactly. She's a hero. Anyway, Jackie, one more. Dear Francis, my son's favourite teacher quit to become an influencer and now posts unhinged motivational videos. Is this about me, Jack? Is this you cheeky little monkey? I was going to say I've never posted motivational videos. No, I probably wasn't anyone's favourite teacher. My son is devastated. How do I explain adults making chaotic decisions?
Well, I mean, I'm interested in what an unhinged motivational video is.
Yeah.
I mean, is it something to do with the power of the mind? You used to see, who's that guy that used to be on TV all the time? He was advertising. With the big American guy with a huge head.
Oh, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, that's right. I never quite understood why anyone would believe anything he said, because
of his massive head.
Because of his massive head. He looked really weird.
Yeah.
And you'd sort of go, I get up every morning and I feel good. And you go, okay, then, well, congratulations. Why are you making a video to tell me that? That doesn't do anything for me, really.
Yeah.
And here's why. Partially because I've got a giant head. And you kind of go, I've just never really got it. I mean, if you need to watch a video to be motivated to do anything, there's already something wrong with you, And if you put so much faith in teachers that if one of them leaves, you're bereft, then there's also something wrong with you. Because, I mean, teachers are basically 10 a penny. And
Is that really fair though, Mike? You get wonderful teachers. We've all had that inspirational T-shirt.
Yeah, we have. But I mean, it doesn't do much for me, now, and it didn't necessarily do much for me then. I mean, I might have enjoyed one teacher more than another. I particularly liked Miss Myers when I was in the second form at Cardinal Vaughan School in London, I remember. She was a history teacher with a lot of miniskirts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that definitely was motivational. You didn't want to miss that. But, it's when you're at school, you think everything at school is really important. As soon as you leave school, it sort of doesn't become important anymore.
Yeah.
And the same with, education. Everybody, like my kids are still going through it. So that you're kind of going, well, let's get a degree and let's get it. Why? If you want to get a degree, that's fine, but you'll be in debt to the tune of about 50,000 quid, and you'll probably get offered the same job that you would have been offered 3 years earlier at the same money if you didn't have a degree. Because nobody really cares anymore, because everybody's got a bloody degree. And most of the degrees are completely useless. And if you find a nice teacher who happens to get your interest going in history or geography or English, great. But it doesn't really do much for the rest of your life, does it?
I don't know. I disagree with that, Mike. Yeah, I had
Well, that's good. We finally disagreed about something.
Yeah, because I had an English teacher called Mr. Potter who gave me, and Mr. Lomas, who were my A-level English teachers, gave me a lifelong appreciation of Shakespeare. Always hated it. Taught me Shakespeare. Now I love it.
Okay, well, I mean that's good. Well, in that case, I stand corrected if that's your experience. But I mean,
It's my lived experience, Mike.
And that's the most important kind of experience.
Yes,
isn't it?
exactly.
What sort of other experience can you have apart from the one that you've lived? By the way,
it's true. I mean,
when they say lived experience, it's like, well, of course it's lived experience. I mean, if it's your experience, you've lived it. It's tautologous, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
I mean, I had a good history teacher, but I mean, I was not very good at school. I didn't like authority. I still don't. I much prefer doing my own thing. I don't like being told what to do. We also had, I sort of admired, we had this crazy teacher called Mr. Coles, who I think was also a history teacher, but we used to call him Cy Coles. And he once got me around the throat and had me up against the wall because he thought I was being a bit too cheeky to him. And my father actually had to come in and complain to the headmaster. But my mother was a teacher, so I've got nothing against teachers. I just think that you need to find a way of going through your life, which means that you're not reliant on anybody else. That's what I would say. And so, if you lose a teacher, just find another one.
Fair. Did you go to Cardinal Vaughan in South London?
It's in Holland Park.
Oh, you went to in Holland Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Catholic grammar school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Run by Dominican brothers. It was pretty strict. They had a discipline master called Mr. Bloomline. He used to take you to the top of the building and spank you with a slipper.
Is that if you were good?
Yeah, if you asked for it.
Nicely. I always remember my uncle went to a Christian Brothers school. This was up in Wigan in the northwest of England. Anyway, one kid was particularly lippy. So one of the Christian Brothers picked him up by his leg and dunked him in the fish tank.
Crikey. Those were the days.
Yeah, that's when this country was great.
That's when you had people who knew what they wanted and who would fight for their country and would remember Remembrance Day without complaining about it.
Exactly, Jack. You see that? That's what happens. You didn't get dunked in a fish tank. That's why you like a rainbow flag. And on that note, thank you so much for coming on, Mike. It's been a pure and unadulterated pleasure, as it always is. Mike, if people want to find you online, most pertinently of all, your new YouTube channel, where should they go?
Yeah, that's The Mike Graham Show. If you want to join the Substack, it's themikegrahamshow.com. I'm on X at IROMG. You can find us on TikTok as well. You can find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook. We're all over the place. So you can't avoid it, really. You just can't avoid it. And we're going to be live every morning, 7 to 9 a.m. On YouTube very, very soon.
There you go. Right, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Tell a mate, if you don't like it, shut your face. Speak soon. See you next week.